What's up, Shelf Addicts? Welcome back to the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Today on Book Chat, we are talking about the September buddy read, Things We Do in the Dark, written by Jennifer Hillier. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and thank you for downloading this month's Buddy Read discussion featured here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. If you're new here, every week we get bookish with book discussions, book reviews, shelf bites, and more. If you're wondering what is a buddy read, this is a feature where Classy and I select a thriller or mystery title that we both are interested in. Then we have a candid conversation about that book or audiobook. We even discuss it in our Facebook group, Shelf Addiction Official, during a live chat. So grab a glass of wine, a cocktail, a cup of tea or coffee, whatever your drink of choice is, and settle in for this fun discussion. As always with book chats, there is a spoiler alert in effect, so you've been warned. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with your book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. That will really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing it. The uncut video version of this podcast is available now on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including this podcast after show. If you'd like to support the show in other ways, please consider doing that by supporting our sponsors. By supporting them, you are supporting us. Check out all of the sponsors at shelfaddiction.com/sponsors. If you've read the book or listened to the audiobook and would like to weigh in on this conversation, be sure to join the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official. I hope to hear your thoughts on this discussion. Links for everything I've mentioned are in the show notes, so let's get going. We've got a lot to talk about today, so we are going to jump right on in. Joining me is the Buddy Read feature co-host, Classy Green from the Bookish Virtual Assistant. Welcome, Classy.
Hey, Tamara. How are you this fine, almost fall evening?
I'm doing great. I was actually at Costco earlier, and I'm outside. I'm like, it's so hot. Why is it so hot?
Oh.
My husband said, it's still summer. Stop trying to rush fall. I said, no.
I'm with him.
But it gets cool at night, though. It's like in the 60s at night. So,
Yeah, that's how it is here, too. But yeah. We have like 16 more days or 15 more days till some fall. So yeah, chill out.
I love fall. It's my favorite season. If only I could have fall straight through December, I would be so happy.
Yeah, I could take that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so fall used to be my favorite.
Yeah. Well, tonight, we have a lot to talk about. But before we get the discussion going, if you are interested in today's after show, head on over to Patreon and watch it. It's available right now. So we're going to talk about books and news and all kind of stuff. So join us there. Today we are discussing Things We Do in the Dark, written by Jennifer Hillier. The audiobook is narrated by Carla Vega. This book was published July 17th, 2022 by Minotaur Books and Macmillan Audio. The hardcover comes in at 352 pages and the unabridged audio is 12 hours and 22 minutes. Classy, would you kindly share the synopsis?
Absolutely. When Paris Peralta is arrested in her own bathroom, covered in blood, holding a straight razor, her celebrity husband dead in the bathtub behind her, she knows she'll be charged with the murder. But as bad as this looks, it's not what worries her the most. With the unwanted media attention now surrounding her, it's only a matter of time before someone from her long-hidden past recognizes her and destroys the new life she's worked so hard to build, along with any chance of a future. 25 years earlier, Ruby Reyes, known as the Ice Queen, was convicted of a similar murder in a trial that riveted Canada in the early 90s. Reyes knows who Paris really is, and when she's unexpectedly released from prison, she threatens to expose all of Paris's secrets. Left with no other choice, Paris must finally confront the dark past she escaped once and for all, because the only thing worse than a murder charge are 2 murder charges. Yeah, now that I read that,
it tells you what happens in the synopsis.
Okay, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yes.
I was just like,
gave it away.
That's so messed up. Wow.
Right. It's right there. And when it came up, I said, "Oh, I already know," because the
Yeah.
synopsis said it.
hmm Yeah. I'm reading this and I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
No, that's not a mystery. That's not a, yeah.
So, you
Hmm.
guys, if you're new here, you're about to find out. If you're not new, then you probably already know. I am about to complain about the genre that this book has been assigned.
Yeah.
I know that Book of the Month Club, they were tagging this as a thriller. I know that.
Yes.
On Goodreads, thriller, mystery, thriller, fiction, blah, 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 suspense.
Yeah.
There is zero thriller about this book, in my opinion.
Yeah. Even the publisher, when they advertised it,
Mm-hmm.
it's advertised as a dark thriller. And I agree with you. It is not. This book had me, how sometimes you have to question what you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to, I had to go on Beyonce's internets and kind of look
Yeah.
up the definition of a thriller. You mind if
Mm-hmm.
I read it?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Thriller tends to be action-packed, fast-paced, with moments full of tension, anxiety, and fear. Thriller is a subgenre of a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
A mystery thriller usually has suspension tension, and it builds as the audience gets closer to learning the answer to the mystery.
Okay, well, we've got lots of problems because there was
Houston,
none of that.
not a one.
See, if I were generous, I'd more likely classify this as a domestic suspense.
Yep. You know what? If I were near you, I'd pinch you because, ma'am,
Am I reading your mind? Is that what's happening?
we've said this before in these podcasts that it's getting really kind of creepy because we're beginning to think like one brain here. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, domestic, yeah,
Yep.
family drama. It was not, yeah, no thriller here.
No
It-
thriller. So I have to say that was, I think, my biggest letdown is because I could tell almost immediately. I'm like, what is this? It didn't take long. And, this is not like other books by Jennifer Hillier. I remember really enjoying, another book by her. And it was actually what I think we called it a thriller. But this just seems very different from the last time.
Yeah, definitely. It seemed like her writing style totally changed from I was trying to find the one we did read, Little Secrets.
Yes.
That was a thriller. That was action packed, tension. Can't wait till we get to the end. Plot twist. Yeah, this was a totally, and I get that sometimes authors will try to switch it up, but this was
Mhm.
just like off the beaten path. It started off good with, the opening scene, her husband lying in, the opening scene is the officers telling her to drop the weapon. And
Yeah.
she's like, "What weapon?" She passed out or fell and bumped her head from slipping in the blood, and she wakes up with his straight, all that wonderful. And
Yes.
then she loses us when we go into the backstory of
Oh my
Paris.
gosh.
Yeah, and we
Ugh.
lived so long in that backstory
Yes.
that, or in the past, that it was like, wait,
It felt
we
like
supposed to be figuring out who killed Jimmy.
two different stories
Mhm.
almost.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Did you enjoy the past or the present more?
I, I would have to say the past because that's where we lived the most.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, there was three. It was like almost three mysteries, like you were saying, two stories here. It was almost like three mysteries. It was the mystery of what did I write? Three mysteries. Who killed Jimmy? Present.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Drew's story. Who is May? Or who killed Joey? Or how did Joe? Where
What
is
happened to
May?
Joey? Yeah.
And then we have Joey's story. It was just. So I would say we lived more in the past than we did in the present. And so that's all I can really go on, because the present, I'll say this, with the present, it almost seemed like a bumbling cop story with the present to me, because here we have a man who died and there was no investigative nothing into his death.
Mm-hmm.
All we had was a few lawyers fighting about, the will, and then nothing else. We don't get probable cause, fingerprint, none of that goes with a murder.
Well, there's a slightly whodunit kind of aspect. I was waiting for, so essentially, honestly, it was very cut and dry. I knew one of two people did it. Either it was Elsie, her attorney,
right,
or his old friend, old love, or it was Zoe, the assistant. The whole time I was just waiting to see which one would drop out. It was one of them. It was very clear. There wasn't much to it, but I don't know. So that was definitely, I guess, the most mystery of it. But it still wasn't very thrilling. And in the past, I felt like I was reading a really sad story about a girl who was abused for her entire childhood.
Yeah.
And for that, I was waiting. And I'm telling you, the minute her mother was arrested, I was waiting for Joey to give it to her mother. I was waiting. I'm like, oh, she's going to pay her butt back in spades.
Yes.
And she did. I was waiting on it. So every single thing that I felt was supposed to be kind of a twist, or even it wasn't. I was expecting it. Like when we discovered, like, I can't even, okay, so I feel like, and this is probably me just reading too many books, or so many books. The minute we switched from Paris to Joey as a child, I said, Paris is Joey.
Bingo.
Immediately. There wasn't even a question. Nope. I didn't even say, well, what is Paris May? I never questioned that. Never.
No, it was just, come on with it. Come on and just tell us. Right. No, and I mean, she drugged this story out.
Yeah.
And it was, and I mean, I get it, to someone who, like you said, hasn't read enough mystery, or, you know the antidote, the script, it's written, it's outlined,
Right.
And yeah, there was, for it to be even it was considered a dark thriller. The only dark is the
molesting.
The backstory of this child being basically pimped out by her mother to pedophiles.
I know, right? Oh,
yeah,
disgusting. I couldn't believe her. Oh,
yeah, and then tried to pretend like she didn't know.
Right.
Yeah, but no, we lived really long in the past. It was very predictable. There was no suspense. I felt like it was really boring. I was going through the motions in the book. Like you said, we knew what was going to happen. I knew the two plot twists. Like you were saying, we knew who Paris's Joey and made it die. I mean, May died, and we knew those. So it was like, okay, what else are you going to tell me?
Because, for those that may not have picked that up immediately, there was another tell. And the tell was that, not constant, but the fact that tattoo kept coming up. The tattoo was in the ID that Drew made, the tattoo in the photo, the tattoo. And I'm like, well, obviously, and people already said they look alike. They were already confusing them at the strip club. So I said, clearly. Now, the only question was, how did May die, right? How did she get there? That is what we didn't know.
Yep. Yeah. But at one point it was just like, how important is this? But I mean, she put it, yeah, it wasn't important. And that was some other things that I thought I gave, I took some points away from, because it was like, let's get back to the main point. You got all these different storylines and plot lines, but what I came here for, you're not giving to me, lady. You're giving me everything else besides what you said you was going to deliver.
Yes, I agree. And to top it, so yeah, like you mentioned, that beginning was very powerful, the very beginning. And then things quickly started to feel like the plot was pressing on the brake. Everything slowed down. And then it was just a lot of things happening. And I'm reading or listening. I listened to the audiobook and I'm like, man, this is awful. And not like the story was awful. The things that were happening was awful.
Yeah.
And so it's like this slow dredge through a lot of bad things.
Yeah, it did. It became really like mellow. You just kind of got in a funk, like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Really?
Right.
Oh my God. So that thriller part, which again, thrillers are action-packed, fast-paced, full of tension and fear and anxiety. And this wasn't fear and anxiety. This was dread and sadness.
Yes.
It was dark. But no, that was dark, but no thrilling. Nothing was thrilling. So
yeah. And all there's a lot of that, if you haven't figured it out yet, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of that molesting going on. Like, it's all in the background, like the whole time.
Yeah.
So if you're sensitive to that, trigger warning,
And she does do that. She does at the beginning. She does mention that, which, and I get that, because, some people don't want to read that, but that also kind of gave way to the plot, which and I get it. I understand why trigger warnings are done.
I was surprised with how well balanced Paris seemed to be after that horrific childhood. Like, she was able to maintain a healthy relationship, right? She wasn't all screwed up in her marriage. And you would think she wouldn't want to be touched. I wouldn't think that without a lot of therapy. And it seems like she had none. She just changed her life. And that was that. Like, she put it in a box.
She compartmentalized.
Yes. And put it away on a shelf in the back of the closet and carried on.
Yeah. And I know, and I just lost my, and all I could think of was, I thought this history was going to repeat itself, because Ruby said, I was a bad mother because I had a bad mother. But again, Paris wasn't a mother, but you just kind of think when bad things happen to some people, the cycle continues.
Yeah.
And she didn't. That was one of the things that did not happen. She, the cycle did not continue with her, but she also had to lay low because she was on the run.
What horrible luck. You find a guy, you think it's great, he's retired, and he's a freaking celebrity, and he wants to go back in the business. She's like, I don't want to be in photographs. I don't want to be in any of this because I'm trying to hide.
But the silver lining of the story of the relationship between her and Jimmy, he really didn't want sex. And she was, and after what she had kind of dealt with, she was okay with that. She was like, we have fun. I love him.
We love each other, but they're not in love with each other.
Mm-hmm. And she was okay with that. And I think that may have been that reflection of, or the end result of, the sexual abuse and the physical and emotional abuse. And she's just like, I just kind of want somebody that I can hang out with and who tells me, he could tell me he loves me, and I'm okay with that. And they
Yeah.
did, you know. So that's what I did see from her abuse and what she did get. She did get an older man, but she got
She got a
a
companion.
mhm.
I do wonder though if she was lying to the police because, she did say we have a regular sex life. Obviously, no one wants to say what their sex life is.
Yeah, she
And she
definitely
said
lied.
regular sex life. And I am sorry, but I know couples in the real world that do not share a bedroom. I know them and they do
Yeah,
have sex. And they do have sex. They just do not sleep in the same bed.
same. Oh yeah, definitely. I
So,
know the same. But
yeah,
she
so
did
it's
mention that they
possible.
didn't have in the book. It was mentioned um that they didn't have sex like
Hmm.
basically, like what we expect.
Yeah.
Um, it was more like you said of a companion kind of relationship. They hung out.
They
They
respected each other. They
mhm,
loved each
they went
other.
on vacations. They were
Yeah.
buddies, and I think he was at a point too in his life where he was kind of like, I've done all the drugs. Who's to say he probably couldn't do nothing after all the drugs he did?
He
But
might
I
need some little blue
digress.
pills. Hmm.
But yeah, but it was mentioned that their sex life was not as active, because I mean he was older,
Like
but
by quite a bit of years.
30? Was it
Yeah.
25 or 30 years? So yeah.
Yeah. That's substantial.
Mhm. Oh yeah,
So,
definitely.
hmm
Definitely. But yeah, it was mentioned that they didn't have a active or young active sexual relationship. So, but and like I said, I think she was okay with that because she didn't, it wasn't for the money. It wasn't fame or fortune. She just found somebody um, who
they
cared about her,
connected with trying to start their lives over because we got their story about how they met.
which is
And
weird.
so they met. She was at the strip club. That is where
Just
they
like,
originally
come on,
met.
damn, Jennifer. Let
Yeah.
me
So
drink to that. I don't like another. Could have met any damn where else. Shit.
yes, they met at the
All
strip
right,
club.
let me drink to that.
Yes, she and then, they had their night. I think they were in the champagne room or something was going on because, he actually said, I don't really remember a lot from that time. Hopefully I didn't offend you in any way. She's like, no, you might have been drunk, but I was sober and it
Yeah,
was fine.
yeah.
And then, so he had forgotten about her and he meets her again when she is a yoga instructor after she has redesigned her life. She took this large amount of money, which we can get into later, but she was able to restart completely new. And he runs into her at their studio, and it took a week for him to remember where he met her before. And he finally says, look, I know we met before, and
It's
now
in
I
the
remember
boom boom
where.
room.
Yeah.
At the table. Look, this is the second week.
Yeah.
we done talked about the titty bar.
Right. So, needless to say, they start dating. He admits he wasn't the best. He's reinvented himself several times, so he
Yeah,
understood that.
yeah.
And he didn't press her about it. It's like that
And
was then,
didn't
this is
judge
now.
her.
Right. He didn't judge her. And they continued on and they end up getting married.
And you know what? That might be why that relationship did work. She didn't
Hmm.
judge him. He didn't judge her. They both had a past. And it was kind of like, you keep my secret. Well, I won't say you keep my secret because he didn't really know her secret.
No.
But, and at one point I was like, you sure this ain't May? Thank you. This could be May.
It could have been, but I knew it
Mhm.
wasn't. It could have
Yeah.
been, though.
Yeah. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed in that story, like how they met. I was like, I would have preferred something
So,
else.
see, they needed that because, of Drew's storyline. So Drew was who Joey had known, after she left home after she was 18. She lived with him and his girlfriend. And he all of a sudden, he worked for a paper, but now he is a true crime podcaster. Like, that is like the most blasé thing nowadays. Everybody is a true crime podcaster.
That line, that storyline too. I was just like,
tired. When I first came across that, a couple years ago, I was like, "Oh, true crime podcaster, yay!" And now it's just in everyone's book. They're always a true crime podcaster.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But because of that, and because now he's starting to like question things, because he originally set out to destroy her mother because he was angry. But of course, it had to be Joey because he was going to hunt her down, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, another reason why we knew Paris was Joey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, as soon as we start hearing the backstory, I'm like,
I can tell what this is.
I was like, oh.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know.
And I like Jennifer. I like
I
her
do
writing.
too.
I think I'm going to go back and read some of her older things. Like I still want to read Jar of Hearts. This is not going to stop me from trying.
Look, we've given lesser authors more chances, okay? So I will read more by her as well.
Yes, definitely.
But this one just was not a hit for me. So
no, not at all. It was just too many. It was like too many characters, too many different. I felt like she wasn't focused. Can I say not? Can I say? But it just seemed like it was here, there. Yeah, it was just too much. It was just way too. Like I think I mentioned before, it almost felt like 3 mysteries going. We had the 3 narratives too. You had Paris telling a story, you had Drew telling a story, and then you had Joey telling a story, and each one darn near had a mystery. Drew was trying to find, where is May? Because May, maybe she may have answers to what happened to Joey. It was just so much. And
I know. And let's throw the mafia, the drug people in there on top of it.
Yeah, that was 100-something pages that we could have done without, if not more than 100 pages.
So the guy,
I don't even know how did it. Okay,
so
I can kinda
this is how it
understand.
shaked out, you guys. So, so May stole like drugs and like a lot of money, like bricks of money from her boyfriend,
Like
and went
100,000,
ghost.
right?
Yeah, it was a lot of money. She ghosted. And so here he comes around, Tim or whatever his name was. Have you seen May grilling Joey? No. Should we call the police? I haven't seen her. Turns out she was at her apartment where she hid the money and the drugs in the hiding place that Joey only thought she knew about, but obviously she saw her access it one day. Mm-hmm. She comes in, her place is a mess, but she doesn't even realize it at first. This chick just walks in, gets in the bath in the dark.
I know.
In the dark.
I'm like, I'm sorry.
Candles.
As soon as I come in the house, flick, flick.
Yes.
I'm turning all the lights on.
Look, that's some millennial bullshit. Okay, like who just walks into a dark house and you don't have an alarm system, chick? You don't have an alarm. Now, if I had an alarm that I disabled, I might be more blasé about it. Right. But if there's no alarm, I'm going to turn the lights on.
Yeah. That's like the first thing.
Right. So,
yeah.
Nuts. So she goes through, takes her bath, puts her robe on. Oh, I'm going out. She goes out. She's like,
Didn't she even light candles?
Yes, she lit candles in the bathtub.
Okay. Ding, 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 ding. That was another thing. I'll bookmark that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, she comes out and then she realizes, man, this room is trashed. Who trashed this room? And she's like, oh my God, Tim must have been here. He's still looking for whatever May took. And so she goes out into the room, and I don't know how you don't smell that blood when you walk in the room. So May has been savaged. Like, she has been beat down, all kind of stuff going on, stabbed, cut up, everything. She thinks she's dead. And she gets, she goes to get help and then she makes a noise. And she's like, oh, she's alive. So she goes back. And of course, she dies right there. So instantly, I'm like, duh, we know what happens. So she ends up grabbing the money, grabbing the drugs, and sets the place on fire. And leaves all her stuff behind, basically.
She's a Lopez, that mother.
Yes.
She did acetone books. I was like, yeah, okay, go ahead and do the books. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So essentially, Tim killed his girlfriend, and then his brother found out that the girlfriend stole from them. So he killed his brother. And then the drug dealer, the head guy is like, if you find May, I want my stuff back. Dude, dead. But they all believe that it was Joey that died and not her. Mm-hmm. And obviously the brother never said, hey, I killed her.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Again, like, and the importance of that was, I mean, granted, the drug dealing thing was important because, it was kind of pivotal for her to have the money she needed to start her new life. But the brother's story, it was just, I just think there was just she was kind of grabbing at straws. She needed to, those were fillers that I think she could have used in a better way.
Yeah.
It was just, it got to be just kind of mundane to me, where I was just sitting there just kind of listening, like,
domestic suspense, like, okay, now what?
Yeah. And I was like, if this was not a buddy read,
I know.
I would have DNF'd this sucker.
I know.
At the 30%, maybe 40% mark.
Okay, with that said, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some stuff that maybe we did like, if we can come up with a thing or two. I think I might have wrote some things down. Yes, I do.
Maybe.
Yes. And we will talk about the audiobook narrator, since we listened on audiobook, give our rating and all that fun stuff. Listen to the commercials, guys, because by doing that, you're supporting the podcast. And while you're at it, click around in the show notes and check out the book review journal and notebook available right now on Amazon. So please do give those things a check out, and we'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. Welcome back, guys. So let me tell you some of the things I did like. Well, one of the main things I liked is that even with all of the drama going on with poor Joey, I like that she had a social worker that cared about her, but I was sad that she couldn't feel safe enough to tell her what was really happening to her, because she just thought, well, all the men are like this. Doesn't matter where I go. So I really like the social worker's character. She had a good role there, although it really didn't go much of anywhere except to just, I guess, have her have an outlet, maybe.
Yeah. She helped, encourage her love of reading.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
She had for each. There were 6 parts, and each part kind of had songs mentioned and books mentioned. Well, books mentioned after she met the woman, and
mm-hmm. But she had some Lauryn Hill, she had some
Puff Daddy, and and 112 Young MC,
right. And she picked up, and I loved, I'm just piggybacking off of what you mentioned, the things that she did, like, like when she would go for these 2 for $10, she always picked the big ass book, so she would have plenty of time to read. And
although they were too old for her 13-year-old self,
yes,
but
they were. But,
Yeah.
no judgment because, our 13-year-old
Oh, I
selves
know.
could, okay, right?
We were reading things we weren't supposed to be reading too.
Right, but the thing is and I thought that same thing, but I was like, here you have a 13-year-old or whoever who has lived the life of a young woman, and this was her escapism. And some of her books were Stephen King, Grisham,
Scott
and
Turow.
yeah, Scott Turow, right?
She had
And it was
2 Stephen King books, It and Needful Things, and I loved Needful Things when I was younger. It was a good book.
yeah. So I kind of like I felt like uh that teenage
Mhm.
Joey, and the social worker didn't make her put it back or
No,
look to
just let
see
her
what
get
she
them.
picked. She just let her go because she was
Yeah.
like, the least I could do is let this child have an opportunity to read. And how like
Yeah.
it's kind of like serendipitous. It's banned book month.
Yes!
September is banned book month, and so
Yes.
many times, with these books that are being banned, here you have this young girl who this was her escape. It was her escape. Needful
Yeah.
things were her escape. And not to say that these books are banned, but if we ban these type of books, there's some stories that she could relate to.
Mhm.
And her only outlet is a book. And if you keep banning these books, she won't find that character who has gone through what she's gone through and give her encouragement. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that too. I loved Deborah.
Yes, I did love her. She helped her out with a bra. She made sure she had a bed because her
It
family
was
was
like, in 5 minutes, we're going to get you a bra.
yes. Her
Yeah, I
her
did.
family was dreadful, so she needed Deborah to keep them in line.
Yeah,
Because they would have had her sleeping on the floor the entire time she was with them.
yeah, yeah. But this child, like you said, every story that she had that involved men except for Drew and well, I'll say Drew almost. She stopped the thing with Drew and she put a kibosh to that, but and Jimmy, but every other man that came across her life, from her mother's boyfriends to her auntie's husband, it was abuse, you know.
Oh,
Uh,
speaking of him, you
Uncle Tito or
Uncle
whatever,
Tito
no, Mickey. Tito
yes.
Mickey.
Tito Mickey. I'm like, ugh. It
Yeah,
was
I wouldn't call
clear what was coming, right? She knew
him.
it was coming, and
Yeah,
she got that knife, and I'm like, she may not have been able to scream or make noise, but she stabbed his ass. This isn't
explain that
happening.
to your wife.
Explain it. And he jumped up and apologized and ran out. And then one of her
Mm,
cousins was like, "Are you okay?" And in the audacity, he was going to do that in the room with his own children
yeah,
in there.
yeah, because those are the type of men. Yep, he had no dams. Like, shh, be quiet. You don't want to wake your little cousins. But yeah,
He
I
like,
really
"Oh,
did
I won't.
enjoy.
I'll just stab you." That's what I'm like. That's what
Hmm.
he get. You
She
should have
got
stabbed him right in
wiser.
the dick. That's where you should have stabbed him. Explain that to your wife.
Right. How did you get that cut, Mickey? But yeah, I did enjoy the social worker. She was the balance for her
Yes.
in the story, the balance in her life, her chaotic life.
Yes.
So was there anything else you liked?
Yes, I liked all the revenge parts. So I liked the part where I could tell, that she was gonna have to, when she started going for questioning and working with the state to answer questions. I'm like, oh, after her mother told her to tell what the one boyfriend was doing to her, but nobody else. I'm like, she
Yeah, with
coming for you.
Charles, the one that she murdered her mother, stabbed 16 times.
Yes.
I need you to do one thing.
So, okay, so I have 2 things I like out of that. So after she told her to go ahead and, because she's like, no one will put away a mother protecting her child. So she did the exact freaking opposite of that. And I'm like, you go,
One,
girl.
your mother, you didn't protect me.
No, she didn't. for years and years and
As soon
years.
as I heard that, I was like,
Right.
bitch.
Exactly.
You didn't protect her.
No. So this is the least you deserve. This is the least you deserve. And I'm glad she stuck to her guts and did not back down. Because she even showed love for her mother. She only wanted her love. And her love was a conditional love.
It was
All
conditional.
the time
It was
conditional.
conditional and transactional.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always. And she would beg, like in her mind, like, can't you just say it? But she wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I loved that when she screwed her mother in court. I'm like, nah, that's what you get. You're a witch. That's what you get. And so I love that part. And the last part that I really liked was when we got the story of what really happened that night, which we already knew that she killed someone because it's on the back of the book. So I'm like, oh, so she killed her. But what gave it away for me immediately, I didn't even have to get to the end of that. But when she went into the daughter's room and took note of the skating stuff and all the things in the room, I said, oh, she did it. She did the last
She
part.
said, oh, she's an ice skater. She was blah,
Yes.
blah, blah. Yeah.
Because I'm like, the mother wasn't even in that room long enough to notice all those things. So after the mother stabbed him 16 times, he wasn't all the way dead. He's begging for help. She goes and gets the skate and puts it on and slams that. Because the author also made a note to say the better skater you are, the sharper the blade is. You know, because you are skating in a way that blade gets real sharp. So she put that thing on and slammed it down on his neck. I'm like, dang, girl, you are savage. And I love it. He deserved it.
And you know what? And that's so funny. Like, you figured that part out from that part.
Mm-hmm.
I figured it out from, because I think before it was mentioned or suggested that, well, it was mentioned that Joey killed Charles with the skate, that the daughter had mentioned that the dad had molested her as well. And she testified at Ruby's hearing. That's how she got out on parole, or, you know, clemency or whatever it was. But
well, she had some terms attached to that, as we find out at the end. So it was some kind of early release or something.
The daughter had testified and said, you know, that Me Too thing, that, you know, she was a victim because Ruby was a victim of my father, because, you know, I was also molested by my father. And that's how I figured that Joey killed the father. Because that was like, oh, how pivotal, how parallel. You know,
she was also molested by your father.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So yeah, those are those two things where you saw it from that angle and I saw it from now I see it. Here you have two young girls. Ice skating is so, you know, young and feminine. And then still, here she goes to her room, the dream room.
Yes.
You know, her daughter had everything.
She's so lucky.
You could ever write.
Yes.
And how lucky is she? Not really.
Not very. And that's what I said as she was fawning over the daughter's things. I'm like, girl, you don't understand. She has things, but she never comes home. Why do you think she never comes home?
And you know why she has things? Because her father is buying her.
Yeah, he's trying to buy her, just like he tried to buy you with that ugly ass necklace.
Bingo!
I'm like, girl, you don't realize there's a reason why his daughter never comes home.
Yeah. But, you know, she doesn't realize that. She just knows. Yeah. But, yeah, that's how I figured that Paris, a.k.a. Joey, you know, stomped on his neck with that ice skate. And I was like, damn.
Yes. Let me tell you.
Sweet revenge.
Sweet revenge is right. Every single revenge moment that Joey got, I was cheering. I'm like, yes, got you.
Yeah. Those were some of the things that I did love about her story is, you know, those revenge stories, or that those wins for her.
Yeah.
You know, So yeah, I like those as well. Anything else you
No,
like?
those were the only ones I had noted.
But yeah, I like those as well. One of the things that I did like, granted, like we said, we didn't really think this was a thriller. This was more of a family drama, or what did you call it? Something suspense.
Domestic suspense.
Domestic suspense. Um, that we learned that Ruby was a bad mother because she had a bad mother. And I think I mentioned that earlier, that
her grandmother was the freaking worst. I'm like, you evil witch. Like, you evil.
She was the shepherd. She was a shepherd for Satan.
Yes.
She was a shepherd for Satan.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I did enjoy that about the story, because I think so many times we forget, in some, well, no, I won't say we won't forget, but I loved how she delved into the cycle of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And not, she did excuse Ruby's behavior.
Right.
She did not excuse it.
No.
But she let us know that a root cause of it.
And she understood it. Yeah, she understood.
Thank you. Exactly. And even Ruby, she was like, I was a bad mother, but I had a bad mother.
Right.
And even though she couldn't put, words to to apologize for it, and she kind of just poo-pooed it, like, I think at the end of the story, you're still dwelling on that. You're so old. Like, you're an adult.
Let it go. Right.
Yeah. But and I loved how she kept that, because that is a part of a cycle that we sometimes want to excuse, but Jennifer refused to kind of poo-poo it. She put it out there.
Yeah.
And I listened to, at the end, she was talking to a podcaster, where she was kind of discussing these kind of family dynamics, where this kind of stuff happens, and we have to, and I won't say we have to accept it, but sometimes we don't want to look at it. And I think she mentioned a story. She said she came to this story about a young man who had died at the hands of his mother. The stepfather and the mother had killed him. I think they had starved him, and when they did the autopsy, they had found like years of abuse. And she said at first she couldn't deal with the story, because she said it was just so horrific. And she said at first she was like, I can't listen to it anymore. It's just too much. And then she said she realized at that point, that's how he slipped through the system, because so many times we don't want to look at this story. And she said that's why she continued. And that was the thing that I did, in this story, how she highlighted that, like, no, we need to deal with this. Yes, there were some tough topics. Pedophilia is a tough topic. Abuse, her mother would burn her with cigarettes, even though she knew that for her, her mother knew what she was doing. She was pimping her out and would get jealous.
Yeah, you would get jealous when the pedophile goes for the child that you put in front of them. Really?
Yeah.
That don't make any sense.
And that was dark. That was very dark.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that Jennifer was not afraid to deal with this topic. And I had read a few reviews where people were saying, oh, it was just too much. I wish I would have known. I wouldn't have read this kind of things. And I'm like, am I that sicko person?
No, I just think some people are ultra sensitive to it for different reasons. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Maybe they have experience with that, or they knew someone with that, or whatever.
And that's the thing, I have experienced that. I'm just going to be transparent. I am a victim of abuse. I am a victim of sexual abuse. I am a victim of child sexual abuse. So I could relate to this character.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so glad that, again, it's Banned Book Month, people, that without these kind of stories, you have some people who live in this life who would not be able to find a story that highlights their
Their
experience.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did
Yeah.
enjoy that part of Jennifer, of her writing, that she was not afraid
No.
to bring this to light. And I mean, there's
Right.
some other authors as well. So I did enjoy that part.
Yeah, I also liked how, Joey was able to kind of confront her own feelings of feeling that rage. Like when she hit her cousin over those books and the way he reacted, she was like, "Oh no. Oh no. I am not this. I am not this." Like she acknowledged, "Oh, that made me feel good, blah blah blah, but I'm not my mother. I'm not going
Yeah,
to be my mother." So
yeah,
it was like she took ownership of it in that moment. She was very sorry and she told him
yeah,
that is not right.
yeah,
Don't, what I did was wrong.
yeah. And it was
Something.
reactionary,
Yeah,
and that's how she had been conditioned. But she also realized when she saw how
he's
he
so
felt
little.
emotionally.
Yeah, and then he tried to defend her. So he was shocked that that she hit him like that because he's
Mhm.
young and little. But then when his own dang on crazy mother and grandmother came in, he was like, no, he tried to get in it, like trying to
Right,
help
he tried to
her.
protect her.
Yeah,
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 because he realized, I didn't realize how much I really hurt her. Because
mm-hmm,
he thought he was doing something good
right.
for her. So yeah, those are some of the things that I did like, that she highlighted in the story, which kind of could be overshadowed by some of the darkness,
Yeah.
but it also brought to light, some stories that need to be highlighted. So
So
those
when you
were
think about the book, like if you segment the book, right, there were some pivotal and poignant moments that needed to happen. And I think the author did those successfully. And
right.
even like where we felt some relief for Joey because she got something to go her way or she did something to defend herself. But it's like when you put it all back together, though, like a puzzle.
It's too much.
Yeah, I still think maybe if those stories were separated out and made
Yeah.
to two different things.
Yeah. Right, because it gets to a point where it's like it was too much competition.
Mhm.
I think if I'm trying to say that correctly, it was competing stories where it could have been more complementary if you focused on, and it kind of goes back to where I felt like she wasn't focused, or it was just too much, where,
Yeah.
it could have been two separate stories, or even, here's this part and here's another part, like
Yeah.
a second story or a prequel or whatever. But yeah,
Mm.
it did become overwhelming, and it was like, which one do I choose?
I know. The past was the better story.
Yeah, it
There
really
just wasn't enough guts to the present day story to evenly compete with the past story.
no, no. And the present story was just so bumbling.
It's kind of
It was,
surface.
yeah, it really was. Another thing that I did like was, she had some really cool quotes. There was some, one of my favorite quotes, which kind of came to the end of the book. And there were a few other ones, and I didn't tag them, but this one probably stuck out to me because it was at the end of the book. Page 338. Once you understand how the magician does their tricks, they no longer dazzle.
Yes.
And that was at the part where she meets her mother, and the mother blackmails her,
Ugh.
and she wants, at first it was 1 million. And I'll kind of, just give you a little backstory. But the mother knew that Joey didn't die in that fire. She knew that May died in that fire. So her mother is blackmailing her for $1 million because she knows her mother knows she's married to Jimmy Peralta, a rich man. Um, but then once Jimmy dies and the will has been edited or changed, and she gets, what, half of his
She
estate,
got
which
like
is like
40 something million
like
dollars.
$46 million.
Yeah.
And mother's like, ho, ho, ho,
I want 10 now.
I want 10 million. So at the end of the story, she's like, I'm going to come to my mother. We're going to have a come to Jesus moment. I'm only going to offer her $1 million. I don't care how much she wants. And the mother kind of, does the mother thing, with the
Yes.
look. And she's like, no, you're not getting 10 million. You're getting 1 million. And her mother's tone of voice changes into that, like, I'm your mother kind of tone, or how dare you talk to your mother, or I know what you did last summer voice,
Mm-hmm.
and the affect of her face changes. And that's when this quote comes in, where Paris says, once you understand how the magician does their tricks, they no longer dazzle.
Yeah.
So she basically said, back when I was that little 13-year-old girl, that would scare the
me.
shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like when her voice changes, or she
Yes.
drops an octave, or her eyes kind of, change.
Mm-hmm.
That used to scare me, but I'm not that little girl
No.
anymore. That was one of
She
the,
was
she had
ready for
those.
her. She was ready.
Woo! She was real ready.
So let's tell the end. Let's tell the end real quick. So we're at the end now, where she confronts her mother. The mother, after all of that, she finally says, fine, and shoves the thing, because she came for the ashes. She wanted her friend's ashes. She shoves the urn at her, and she's like, give me the $1 million. I'll make it work. And she's like, make it work? Really? She says, I'm not giving you anything. She tears it up.
That little cashier check. She's like, ugh.
She said it was worth $1 million just to see that.
I was like, yes. Now that part. Okay, so wait. So we're gonna go to the end. The end, y'all, was probably like the best part.
So they out there, like, she's like chasing her down. She turns around to walk. The woman's chasing her down. And I think they were like, by the pond or something. And they're bickering. And before you know it, she shoves her forward. She cannot swim. So Drew to the rescue. He comes and fishes her out the water. And the mother, she's just standing there looking like, I don't give a bleep. She don't give a fuck. Because she's like, Drew came here to interview me, so she's on some other stuff. So anyway, he recorded that whole incident after, and of course, when she falls in, the ashes go. The ashes are all in the lake.
Yeah.
But he catches
and the ashes are
mace.
Which that was the blackmail plot.
So the proof is gone. The DNA is gone.
Yep.
And so he's like, they call the police. And I'm like, the police didn't even question who Paris was, because she said, I came with my friend who was doing a podcast up on her. She acted crazy.
And this is the Ice Queen. Y'all remember? She
right.
Basically, she's cuckoo, y'all.
She's nuts. And then she violated her parole by doing that. By physically assaulting her, and they took her ass back to jail.
That setup was perfect.
Yes. And then the whole time she's like, that's my daughter. And they're like, no, she must be a little crazy.
Cray. Yeah.
And the police, one of the officers was like, wait a minute, aren't you married to that comedian? And she's like, yes. And she was waiting on something bad. And she was like, oh, my condolences. I really liked his show or whatever.
Yeah, like so.
Yeah, so escaped.
Miss Ice Queen, it didn't work this time. It didn't work last time, and it's not going to work this time.
You know what? I would have happily, if I had all that money, I would have happily thrown $1 million out the window like she did, just to see her mother go back to jail for the rest of her life.
Ooh.
Flush this $1 million down the toilet just to get your ass caught. She could not hold her temper together long enough.
It was power. It was nothing but a power. This whole time that this woman, still thought she had that power over this woman. I'm your mother. And that was another line. Good way. How dare you talk to your mother like that? You have never really been a mother.
No, not the way mothers are supposed to be, because you were a pimp and some other things.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually, if Drew weren't there, she actually could have killed her. She said she didn't know how to swim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So
that was a big risk, but she took it.
Yeah. It was planned pretty well, but that was part of the story, that here you have this. I mean, from a child's perspective, this girl really knew her mother. She knew her character.
So check this out, you guys. This is how strong the backstory was and how weak the present day story was, because we didn't even talk about what actually happened to her husband.
Oh, damn.
We totally said that's not relevant at all.
But that's how the story opened.
Yeah, that's how it opened.
Again, you did not deliver what you promised me.
Mm-hmm.
What you told me you was going to deliver was.
Right.
I mean, she did. We eventually, but that wasn't the main.
It was secondary.
Focus.
Yeah.
Say it again.
It was secondary. Uh-huh.
Y'all, while y'all up there talking about this is a good story, blah, blah, blah. What did she tell us she was going to do? Who killed Jimmy Peralta? What was the main fucking focus of this? Okay, I better stop cursing. What was the main focus?
We curse on this show. Quit playing.
I know.
Right. And that wasn't what the focus was at the end. We were more concerned about what Paris did, because that's what I was waiting on. That was the last piece of the puzzle. I'm like, now you got to deal with your blackmailing ass mother. How you going to deal with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Your crazy ass mama.
Yes.
And granted, like you said, the past has to come, like she has to deal with her past.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole mystery thriller part of this was who killed Jimmy Peralta.
Right. And turns out, y'all, real quick, she didn't do it. She was, running off in Canada trying to take care of some business she shouldn't have been trying to take care of at that time. But she, so they finally caught her on video coming back across the border. So she was no longer a suspect. And then when the ME's report came in, it was also undetermined how his death, it wasn't, they kept trying to say it was a suicide, but they were inconclusive with that. So they said undetermined. So she was cleared, moved on. And then, of course, she's bumbling around her husband's bathroom, which she didn't even want to go in there, and realizes, wait, there was a blade here that was missing before. So where'd the blade come from? Who's been in here?
His teenage sweetheart.
I know. And like I said earlier, I knew it was either the assistant or the sweetheart. And it comes out that the assistant was in there, but she said she gave him a brand new tape because he did his little show in front of the mirror with his tape recorder, right? Old school.
Yeah, he was old school.
On the tape recorder, you can hear the childhood sweetheart, a.k.a. his longtime friend, a.k.a. her,
his lawyer.
His lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And she's on the tape. And she thought the last time she had seen him, was like the previous Tuesday or something. But they had plans that night and he forgot. So that ticked her off. And before you know it, they're scuffling. And she accidentally, according to her, slices his leg right where a dang on artery is.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's that.
And he forgot because he had Parkinson's. Yeah, not Parkinson's, I'm sorry. I'm mixing it with
Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's.
I'm mixing it up with last month's book.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, early Alzheimer's. So he did forget. So
she's like, I love him. It was a mistake. I'm like, okay, girl.
Another plot
line. I know.
And another thing, like with these thriller things, like most thrillers, and not every thriller follows this formula, is usually plot driven. I felt like this was very character driven.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Did you think? Yeah. And I was just like, something something's not meshing. Like, this ain't mathing. Yeah.
I think thrillers are, like the description you read, it is fast-moving plots, fast-moving stories. So I think it is more plot-driven than character-driven. And when it's something is more character-driven, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it slows the story down a lot. It does.
Yeah.
And that's something else. It's a different genre.
Well, I think that's, you just said that's what the definition is of a thriller.
Right.
And this did not fall under the true definition of a thriller.
It does not.
And like you said, Goodreads, Book of the Month, even the publishers, like when they advertise it as a dark thriller.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not fit.
It doesn't deliver that. So
No.
If you have not figured out by this conversation if this is for you, we just told you, if you want a thriller, you should not look to this book. If you want something that you can dig into more than what we just said, and you're all about the slow burn with the character development and a horrible, sad backstory, go for it. You'll enjoy it.
Right. But if you are looking for a thriller written by Jennifer Hillier, I suggest you go back to, what was it? Little Secrets.
Little Secrets, yeah.
Yeah. We did read Little Secrets, loved it. I'm not giving up on Jennifer. I'm going to probably go read some of her backlist. I still haven't read Jar of Hearts, and I've heard there's a few other ones that she's done that she's really, that are true thrillers. But this one falls short for me. Yeah.
So, real quick, audiobook narrator. Did you enjoy the narration of Carla Vega?
She was okay. And the thing is like, I don't know if it was. No, I can't say. The story was just kind of so mundane that I couldn't fault her. Like, she wasn't horrible. It just got to a point where I felt like it was flatlined to me. Like, whatever she did, no matter what, it was just like, wow, it was like Charlie Brown's teacher to me. And I can't say that had anything to do with her narration.
No.
So I would say her narration wasn't bad.
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem with her at all. I'm just trying to see. I did speed it up, as I always do. I think I listened at 1.75.
Okay.
I think that's about where I ended up at. I think 2 was just a hair too fast because some of the words were accented, right, on purpose. So
Filipina, because she was a Filipina descent,
right?
So yes,
and
that was a lot of stuff too. It was now that we kind of even talk about that, it was just a lot. The Filipina, the culture, the enunciation of words. I mean, granted, I did enjoy, but it just seemed to me that it was just so much taking away from the story sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, let's rate this thing. Let's rate it. I know. You first, Classy. I will give you the honors.
Oh, you.
I know. I can go first if you want. It's not, I can do it. I kind of have.
No, you know what? I'm going to stand my ground.
Okay, I settled where I'm settled and I've committed to it. So I'm not scared. It is what it is.
Yeah, I'm not scared either. I'm going to give her a 2. It did not deliver. It was not a thriller according to this genre, and even what the publisher, even if I just go by the publisher, I'm not even going to go by Goodreads, because Goodreads is people designate. Even the publisher advertised this as a dark thriller, Book of the Month, which I got that book as a thriller. This is not a thriller.
Correct.
And that alone marked me down from a 3 to a 2.
It was misrepresented, and I don't like that. So
it's a 2.
I'm also a 2. And part of that is the mislabeling of the genre, because I was expecting one thing and got something else.
Yeah.
Also, it was the pacing. I really had a pacing with the first half of this story in a real way.
Yeah.
It started getting more interesting on the back half, but man, it was
some
tough
time,
for a minute. So
Yeah.
it was just kind of an overall disappointment from what I was expecting. Now I think it was still well written, right? There wasn't anything
Yeah.
wrong with the writing style, but it was just a different type of book. And this necessarily isn't the type of book for me, although I did get some things that I liked out of it, but there were more things I didn't like.
Yeah, exactly. There was less that I liked. And this is what we love to read. And I mean, when I got to the point where I just felt like I'm just trying to hurry up and finish this book, I knew I couldn't go above a 3. And like we've said before, a 3 is something that it's okay. I'm not sure if I'd recommend it to a friend. So, yeah. And the funny thing is I think when we started this book, it had a rating of 4 something. Well, I think it still has a rating of a
4. 4.04 with 22,000 ratings.
Yeah.
And I think, and I don't want to be this way. I don't want to be this way, but I am going to be this way. Like, I am honest to a fault when it comes to these books. I don't care where I get the book from. If it's a 2, it's a 2. If it's from NetGalley or from the publisher, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to boost it a point, a star, or anything like that just because I got it from the publisher. They want our opinion, right? They say they want our opinion. So, unfortunately, but I do feel like a lot of people who rated this book very highly had galleys. Yeah. There are a few that didn't. But a lot did. And every single 5-star had a galley that I'm seeing right off the top. So again, I appreciate any arc or galley that I get, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it because it's an arc or galley. And a lot of people don't feel that way.
Yeah, I agree. This is, it's a 2. I'm going to stand my ground. I mean, like you said, we've read worse than this and have continued to read their works. I will not give up on Jennifer, but this one did not deliver in the genre as advertised. You sold me a bad bill of goods. Just gonna say it.
It's like you get a Honeycrisp apple and you know what that tastes like. And inside, when you bite into it, it tastes like a Granny Smith apple. You're like, WTF, what is this?
You know, I felt that in my spirit.
Right. Now, trust me,
I felt that in my spirit.
Still like a Granny Smith apple, but when I'm expecting it, when I want something tart like that, and I know what I'm getting, and I have a Honeycrisp apple, I know what I'm supposed to get.
I know what the hell I'm supposed to get.
And don't try to fool me by putting the outside as a Honeycrisp and on the inside as a Granny Smith. Don't do it to me.
No, because you're going to fucking piss me off.
Because you bite into it, you're like startled. You're like, what?
I got some Honeycrisp downstairs. Yes. I'm expecting what I expect. This is what I paid for.
Yes.
This is what I ordered.
Yes.
And this is what I received.
Yes.
You know, that's what they say, the Amazon buys or whatever. This is what I ordered. This is what I received. Yeah, this is kind of that.
All right. So next month is October. And if you're in the group, you would have already seen the next 3 books, shared on the group and in the book club's app. Excuse me. But if you haven't been in there, then I'll tell you what October is now. And you can pick that up and read it and then come back here, or you can join us on Facebook or the book club's app and talk about it in book club. But if you're not into book club, no worries. Come right back here to the podcast and you can listen to Classy and I talk about it, and you can feel like you're a part of book club anyway. So the October book is The Children on the Hill, written by Jennifer McMahon. And this is a little bit out of our comfort zone, because it's like a horror and it's a little historical. Most of it takes place in 1978, I believe. And some of it is 2019. So it's, typical thriller thing where we have two timelines, right? But it's a horror. So it's genre defying is what the publisher says. Genre defying. So people are tagging it as horror number 1, thriller number 2, mystery number 3. So we shall see what we get. I want something a little scary for October, Halloween. So we're going to do it.
Gonna go for it.
Yes. So we will see you back here next time. I think we're done. What do you think, Classy?
Yes. We're done.
All right. We are done. We will see you next time. And until then, happy reading. Take care of yourselves. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.